They can get to work quickly, especially those who repair roads. Let them get to work quickly. Lester obeyed and said yes. I'll try to arrange. Continue reading the list. When he got to the paycheck, he shoveled and screamed. Their salary can be as high as 5 yuans. Do you know in the mountains? An ordinary family, the whole year's income is only about 20 yuans. What are you doing out there? Pay these people back so fast. Came just to repair the railroad. Is there a problem with your brain? Lester saw Your Majesty agitated and hurried Tay to explain. Your Majesty, you don't listen to me when I make excuses. Han Dynasty in every way conditions are much better than ours. These workers are ready to leave their homeland to La Sun. It takes a lot of work. I paid a lot of money to invite you here. That, we can't use the eyes of a normal worker to look at them. These people have very good technique that can help us foster workers. Your Majesty, look far behind. We are not real. The most important thing is to recruit Your Majesty. If we return it, it will be overwritten. Kwok Fuang's serious facial color gene wipe asked Tazilla, is to take the same price as us to recruit Sao. Lester said, well, the price is set by Your Majesty. But don't worry. There are fewer of them than us. We're not going to lose to Toro first. He wiped Ren and then said, what loses with not losing? I don't want to compare with them. Lesser grinned, Your Majesty is right. Uncle Ren read the list. Once again, the white face screamed, what's in here is a florist. Their wages are much higher than others. The farmer can make the food. What are you going to do? Lord Lester said hurriedly, Your Majesty, listen to me first. The next morning in the palace. In Princess Gil's bedroom, the sun from outside sings in. Now someone comes in and whispers. Squeeze hands and feet agile little. Princess Gil woke up when she heard the voice. Your voice is too loud. I told you not to bother me. You guys go into the room. When you wake up, wake up. Then people go up. Gil then opened his eyes wide. I thought a stranger came into the room and screamed. But also because I'm too scared to back off. Until I fall one on the ground. If you want to see that, ask Han. Electricity fell down on the bed, then quickly help His Majesty stand up. What are you doing, Your Majesty? After a while, Princess Gil sat at the dinner table. You are the Queen Mother. 2 people while sleeping. Sneaky in here to watch for me. I want you to enjoy a service called bathing. To wear clothes and eat rice. The Queen laughed and explained. When you go to a foreign country, it is dangerous. But even so, you still remember us, my son? I feel very comforted. Your father suggested that. I didn't expect to make you fall into bed. King Wipe Ren scratched his head, admitted. It's the idea of breaking our pieces. Gil was helpless to hear that. No, but there is a bit of trouble. But you can still enjoy it. That's right, father. Uncle Lester told me yesterday. Condition Lu Feng's business cooperation plan. Your Majesty, how do you see it? The king wiped Ren with a sigh and told him to speak. But we want to use minerals. To protect the stones and send workers to them. Workers are easy to say. We basically don't have that. Finding it is also troublesome. Princess Gil immediately went to pull the hand he offered. The village has more than 40 buildings. More than half of the city is based on mountains. Resources of minerals and precious stones, we certainly have a lot. Do not be afraid of trouble without doing it. The Queen also gave advice. They say, courage has things. At that time, the Han dynasty bought goods. It can save a lot of money. Your father could only agree when he heard it. I immediately sent someone to find it. Gil then happily squeezed the shoulder for father to flatter. Father is good. Your father is like that. Min again. Does the whole world have AI that can be compared to humans? The king wiped Ren and had to tie his hands to her. Keep your mouth shut. Don't be there praising me. Tell us about what you've seen in the past. The queen, on the one hand, thought my son was cool. Impersonate them. Elite virtue. The power is not bad. Come back good. It's not a shame. It's a child that we care about. What does Princess Gil say about this now? In short, eat well. Life is fun. It's not just you. But there's also the gist of the Han dynasty. Who doesn't know? Save Your Majesty's song, Quan martial arts. He's also led the way in inventing a very smart way of thinking. The queen was astonished to hear her daughter say that. Gil Sao admires this king. In just a few short months, Gil's been drawn to him. Princess Gil continues to praise the exile. He has a lot of respect for women. If it's recruiting as a prostitute, it's definitely not true. You think in your heart. Jenny and His Majesty's commission, though not yet. But I can do psychological work for my father. I'm so understanding. Gil confidently thought so, but you don't know that. My mother is thinking differently. She winced. You wonder. How do you feel about the wind? I will not forgive him. At this time in Trongan City, on the farm outside the city, Silei laughed and said, human resources today not enough, but good weather. People are faster. Complete the plan by 10 hours. Morning harvest, but also pay attention to safety. The new crescent is very sharp. Carefully put it in your hand. The farmers laughed and said, yes. Master Slay. Sile looked at the farm. Dyed yellow of the wheat. In her head aesthetic that after the stormy wind days. We've improved a lot. Reclaimed a lot of land. This year's harvest. Don't worry, there's no food in the winter. Then the farmer raised his voice. See, Lord. You don't have to say. Need to see the actual use of agricultural tools. Come here quickly. When I heard that, Silei replied happily. The farmer said, holding a sickle and cutting rice. You see, the new tool is very sharp and easy to use. Much easier to use than previous tools. Silei looked surprised and exclaimed. That's very good. But are you tired of bending over like that? The farmer immediately laughed. You can harvest so much food. Not a little tired. The farmers in the back were quick to respond. I was more tired than now. But the output is far behind and the taxes are paid. A little to eat is not enough. It's good now. Just hand over 20% of the amount. The rest of the land rent is not enough. You can take it for sale. Your Majesty is a good man. Earth and other countries. There is no living AI. Your Majesty, we reduce taxes so much. What is a good person? Let me tell you, Your Majesty is the god of change. Hear these words. Silei said with a serious face. You're standing around talking. Your Majesty has spoken. Need to talk science, not superstition. Don't drag the gods and demons in. They just finished saying that the Lord is right. Don't talk too much later. I just wanted to show my respect. With Your Majesty. Your Majesty is like a god in my eyes. I hear that. He raised his hand and waved a few words. Okay, stop talking. Let's get to work. Suddenly, the weather started to get worse. Black clouds pulled to the hump. I saw that someone shouted for Master Scylla. Siley looked up at Theo and sighed. You're not in charge. Another farm. Why did you run here? When he heard that, Kier's tense face replied. He quickly looked at the western sky. Someone said before, the air moves from west to east. Brings moist air. Do you want to rain? Sile said with a panicked face. Yes, I've been busy all morning. They don't pay attention to the weather changes. Go quickly and arrange a quick harvest. How much or as much can be obtained? I heard that. The man hurried to speak. The number of people with me is just enough. Heard here, Siley in the aesthetic head that. But why is it lacking? When the Siley is ready, order to harvest quickly. It's impossible to rely on us alone, as we can call in rescuers. Don't worry, I'll call for help right away. That's right. Related to agricultural and labor statistics tables. It's in the car. He just finished, and the guy said yes. I hear that, Siley continued. I'm going to the administrative court. This time in the high court. Siley holding statistics board give show, save Fang review. After a time of quick thinking. No problem. We've approved the deployment, Ellie. I sent someone to put up a notice. Said the Ministry of Agriculture is hiring AI workers who want to do salary based on market price, in addition to the prevention of recruiting workers to dot. Immediately notify the military. Any team that doesn't have a mission today is going to help. I heard that, Ellie said, go away. Then the wind turned to continue. That's a lot of food. We need to transport them all to the barnyard. Storage is enough. I remember where I raised my husband. It was built near the farm. The birds haven't left yet. I give you a special authorization. You can temporarily transfer 5 cups here. I hear that. Siley asked the young master. I still have one more thing to tell you. This, can someone else go to work temporarily? I just finished my post, Mina. Give it to me. Mina blinked and replied. Don't worry, make sure you complete the task. Finished processing, and laughed and said, the rapid harvest is basically considered. It has been dealt with. Don't be impatient. I heard that, and my eyes filled with sorrow. You said it like this. After the stormy days, to meet the demand through the east of Trongan City. We didn't have to expand the cropland. The plan was very good at the time. The number of statistics is sufficient, but I found out on the way here. It was to save reclamation too quickly. There is now land, beyond our capacity to protect and grow. I hear that now. Put your hand on your chin and think. This is a big problem. Harvest the harvest. Recruiters in the military can now help. But maintain winter farm protection. It takes more labor and time. Otherwise, the land is wasted. I heard this in Siley's head thinking. Everything that happens to young people doesn't change. The color of my face has changed. It's a disaster. After thinking, Sile continued. This is because of my negligence. That big hole just appeared. I can't think of a good way right now. Please help the young master. I will submit my resignation when this is resolved. I saw that and asked hastily. You really think so? Siley said yes. Confirm the answer. The impotent man replied that. Hear that Siley Raft bent down and said, Thank you, young master. I'll definitely do a good job. In this last time. Suddenly, the wind interrupted what he said. Who told you to resign? I hear that. Siley was suddenly startled, staring at the wind. The wind continued laughing. You are in a hurry this time. But just take the atonement. No need to resign, even though our demographic is still growing. The demand for food will also increase. Crop expansion is a trend, of course. Your way of doing it is also considered accidental. What about your concerns? It can be solved with filler. In the world, to recruit people who agree to farm, let them grow their crops. They just need to be like farmers. After the harvest, pay 20% of the land rent. Does that mean the problem has to be solved? I hear that now. Siley thought in her head. It is not a shame that the young master's so short. Think of a way. Then Siley said, Young master, your measures are great. But our cropland area, it's nationwide. It's time for too much consumption. It's not going to create food waste. I hear that. He turned his head and looked and replied, This one is easy to handle. You're going to invite the nun here. The tea ceremony just arrived today. The woman standing next to me said yes. Soon the tea table was ready. Nicola is carefully brewing tea. Siley was surprised and said, It turns out that drinking tea gets a lot of attention. I usually use the apricot cup. Just drink it casually. Nicola laughed and said, Yes, first use warm water and quickly wash the tea. Then soak the tea. This makes the taste of the tea even better. He looked at the tea Nicola had prepared. Siley, two eyes bright. She looked at me with admiration and said, This is a star flower. It's in the water. It's blooming. After getting close, I can smell the fragrance of tea and flowers. This is the first time I've seen this tea. Nicola explains more. It's tea that researcher Ra doesn't get too close to. Be careful burning. Siley could hear that. Then she turned to look at him and asked, But the missing? Scrub into tackling food overabundance. What does it have to do with my atonement? I hear that. The answer is very simple. Worried about too much food? We may not grow food. Maybe you want to increase your tea production. But the people from the countryside who brought the tea tree only had 10 trees. It's very precious, so it's normal. Tea leaves only for administrative court and diplomatic guests. Tea plants are not very difficult to feed SAO. If you let people who don't know anything grow tea. Not too reluctant SAO. I hear that. Laughing continued. I want them to grow not tea. It's these flowers. Try to drink first. Chili just had a cup of tea. In your head, just aesthetically, that this is real. Can we solve the problem? Nicola looked worried. Be careful, burns. Chili takes a sip. She closed her eyes and felt the smell. The smell of pink flowers mixed with the pure smell of pink tea. A little sweet in there. The drink is soaked in the sea. Rose and rose tea. It's the ultimate in teas. Missing GIA. Can anyone think of this flower tea? It's too bad. This is the best tea I've ever had. Nicola laughed and said, After the days of wind and storm, the garden fell a lot of flowers. People are going to throw it away. The young master asked him to collect 10 cells. It's made into tea as it is now. I hear that. He looked in admiration and said, I don't want farmers to grow flowers. It's used to make tea. This idea is too good. I see, even without tea leaves. Even a rose would be very welcome. He just finished his speech and was right. There are many types of tea that are easy to grow. Very high economic value. It could give farmers more income. It's possible to increase the size of our country. It's a good thing for the country, for the people. When he heard this, he turned his back. Then you said it too well. I immediately arranged for every husband. I see that my wife uses her hands to hold her shoulders. Wait a minute. Growing flowers is not the same as growing food. You need to spend money and energy, including the latter at great risk. You're in a hurry like this. Think about the implications for future measures. For example, if the flower dies, why? How much logistics planted later, how to consume? Sounds reasonable, C. Lei hurriedly said. Sorry, master, I'm in a hurry. None of these things have been thought of. She comforted me and said, I didn't mean to blame you. This is the opportunity to get the atonement I gave you. Give you 5 days, based on the current employment situation, to make part of the table of agricultural consumption reproduction planning. Solve the wasteland. How to lead farmers to get rich together. Hearing this, Sile seemed determined. Young master, I will definitely try. Don't worry, I'm paying attention to the surcharge harvest. One side wrote the plan. When you're done, 3 feet for feet, leave immediately. I saw that and laughed. It's very dynamic. When Nicola heard that, she said yes. 5 days later at the court. Silly held the brochure with Ellie and walked in. Ellie, curious, asked Siley, why did you come so early today? Siley laughed when she heard that. I have to report to the mayor today about my economic crop planting plan. I'm a little early to have time for improvement or rework. That's right, Miss Sao, they are not alone. Ellie continued. The young man came earlier than me. Mina, they went to the office safely today. There must be a young man up there. You're not confident in your plan. There is time left to improve. Siley quickly explained. Not without confidence. It's stress. Look at these dark eyes. I'm worried when I report a problem. So I was always practicing theory last night. Wrestled all night. Ellie laughed and said, I know your stress. You hear that? Siley, keep talking. I have to thank you. The next day, she sent me some tea. Helped me a lot. It's from there that I get my inspiration. So decided Tan to go to the garden to survey. Once I wrote this report. Elle laughed and replied, it is not me. I'm just being asked. Ellie opened the door to the room and said aloud, Master Siley came to report, and I'm off to work. Bye-bye, see that, Siley replied. Then Siley came closer to the wind. Then she handed him the brochure and said, Missing GIA. This is a consumption plan for the production of concentrated flowers. Has been modified according to the situation after I went to survey the garden and the market. It's a bit long to write out the plan. So I'll give you a little explanation. Look at the brochure. It's really thick in the head. See if there are new preparations. Then save the envelope and say it. Siley's starting to report the plan. She said this category has no precedent. But I believe that this flower tea, no matter which way it goes, the poor can make it economical. The greatest possible benefit. So there's a lot of benefits to growing it. I don't add extra points. First of all, because there are so many types of tea. Clearly, each type will have a lot of identical content. They also waste your time. So I picked out a quorum plant. Rose flowers is an example to describe the plan. Listen to here. I think that's not bad. Before the Siley's agriculture report was filed, full but dry con. Now the words are more accurate. Except for the day at the farm. She's in a writing job. It also takes a lot of effort. Siley continues. And then I tell the audience the specific direction. I'll tell you from risk, cultivation, and consumption of pink flowers. A lot of difficult problems will probably be encountered. Analyze how to lead. Help farmers grow Hoa tea. Glue production career Hoa developed and grew. Sile looked at the face of Liu Feng. She looks aesthetically panicked. I just started. The young master at SAO showed such a face. Maybe your direction is wrong. Then the shaky La continued. From the results of my investigation in the Garden of Flowers, grow pink flowers on empty areas. It's very pragmatic. First, you will have 3 problems. The first, planting technique requires second highest long time. Then it's a matter of consumption. How to sell. Now, Sile's chest is pounding. She assured herself that she was calm. Calm down, Master didn't interrupt me. That said, it can continue. Sile continues. It's not easy to sell. It's not sure. It will definitely be welcomed. But talk about this. Sile was so afraid that he trembled in his aesthetic mind, that. What am I going to say? That's it. It's messed up in my head now. How to do it now? The young man will doubt his abilities. Sile uses her hands to grasp the dress. When he saw that, he spoke. It's the only way to go, right? Sile laughed as she heard that. That's right, single-handed direction. People know I'm going to say this. Just finished, the friendly laughter continued. How we know it doesn't matter. Don't stress, relax. If you forget, you can open the document. Sile looked embarrassed and said no. No need, next is the book. Sile often thinks. The young man seems to be much closer. It's very different from the seriousness of the beginning. He must have seen that he was too nervous. For letting myself loose was intentional. Pay attention to such small details. It's actually too warm. After thinking about it, the speaker continued. Based on the above, I recommend, because we agreed to train the planting technique, uniform preferential plating, uniform purchasing, that before the typical flower gets to scale. To form a scale. I feel so nervous. The judge thought. This girl. My face is red, and I'm still trying to explain. Go ahead and tell her some stories later. He sighed for a moment and said, You want the government to support them. Sile looked surprised and asked the young master. People know and have just withdrawn. Liu Feng said next. You want to do brand effects. Sile looked surprised when she heard this. She screeched loudly. Everyone knows that. Not true. He was the one who asked Ali to bring the tea. You have arranged it soon. What I want to do is the government. Shallow pit workshop form a homogeneous whole. Development of the newspaper industry chain. Give a cup of tea to Chile. Very good, very coincidentally with my thinking. I hear that. He was happy to answer. I have a question. Is when there's a plan to grow crops. The liberal economy replied with a laugh. When we said we wanted to repopulate, we had a plan. I was surprised to ask so early. You're so predictable right now. In my head, I thought I was coming to you. The results are still far behind. Let us take a sip of tea and say, You've done very well. Later, the farmers of Chang'an City gave it to you. Don't let them down. Sile laughed as she heard that. Thank you, librarian. I will definitely try. Ellie, standing next to her, said loudly. You guys are coming here to see too much food. Below the administrative court, each of the food trucks coming in. Sile looked and said, Look at these fleets. The joy of the harvest is waiting to come. Ellie heard that and hurried on. Where are they going? I remember the salary department wasn't there. He replied, the new salary. It was built for the first time this year. I heard that Liu Fong said that the new food was in the warehouse. I need to take a look. Do you want to come with me? Siley replied quickly. I want to go, Ellie said happily. I also want to call someone else. It's so exciting. At the new wage warehouse in Trongan City. Everyone's fully gathered here. Liu Feng laughed and said, you took too long to see that. She looked up and said, how have you been lately? Mr. Sao is still working on it. At your age, retire early. You hear that? He replied less quickly. I haven't seen you in a long time. Please come and help. Thank you for everyone's interest. I'll show you around first. Finished talking, he took everyone inside the new salaried warehouse. Silly step inside. You feel that you are less. This is a huge salary. He looked surprised and said, I see the same thing here, the two sides of the building. Food and wage storage. Hurry to continue. Food is not put inside this building. I heard that, he replied in a hurry. Food and Supplies Treatment Center. Countries and conventional food stocks are not the same. If you want to talk about it half a year ago. Half a year ago, young master called me and Zuma, in charge of repairing the new salary warehouse, then the National Food and Supplies Curation Structure. Under the highest administrative division established. It's the pillar. To stabilize for the supply of supplies and food of Han. The reign began from then on. Salary also officially changed its name. It's the National Food and Supplies Center. I hear that. They were surprised to find that God. I can hear the enthusiasm of the pillars.